Hi, I'm Abby. I hit 10,000 subscribers and this is my 10K Q&A. A few weeks ago now, I hit 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you again so much for that. I didn't think that was gonna happen anywhere near as quickly as it did, but it's here. It came very quickly, and on my community tab on my channel, I hosted a little poll. What would you like to see as a fun little special 10K video? And you guys picked another Q&A. I did a Q&A probably 6 or 7 months ago. A lot has changed on the channel since then, so I'm really excited to answer all of these questions from all of these new faces. But before we get into the questions, I do have a few things to say. Firstly, you're going to be hearing some background music in this video. I don't have full background music very often, but when musicians will supply it to me, I'm very grateful for it, and I love to use it when I can. So, the music in today's video is provided by Julian Fulco Perron. He has a new single out, Tame Impala enjoyers are sure to like that one. I talked a little about his latest record, In My Garden, over on my Instagram. This is some eclectic 70s folk inspired stuff. If you're into the whole 60s and 70s revival thing, I recommend you check out Julian's music. His links will be in my description. Next, I've gotten a few questions through email, Instagram DMs, even on this Q&A post about opening up a Patreon. If whatever number this subscriber count is at doubles, then maybe I'll consider it. I want there to be a strong interest there, and I want to make sure I do it right for you guys. So it's a possibility. I got a lot of repeat questions, so I'm going to be smushing those together when I can. You'll see up on my screen. I'll put your questions up here, and if you ask the same thing, I'll try and group those together. If I couldn't get to your question, I'm so sorry. There were a lot of questions. Okay, Q&A time, let's go. Our first question of the day is from Rick. Do you like to be addressed as Abby or Abigail? Firstly, finally, someone spelling my name right. I have it in the description of every video. This is how I spell Abby. I've cared less how I'm addressed over the years. Abby or Abigail is fine, just check your spelling, please. He also asks, what music are you drawn to during different seasons and between seasons? I was thinking recently about how I consider, this might be a bit of a hot take, I consider the Beatles to be spring and fall music, and the Rolling Stones to be summer and winter music. I don't know what it is. I just feel the Beatles have that transitional season vibe. I'm fully in a Beatles swing right now because the weather is beautiful, the flowers are starting to bloom, the grass is finally green again. It all just feels exciting. The Beatles are Nature is Healing music. And that sleazy late 60s, early 70s Stones is perfect for the dog days of summer. I always find myself on a Rolling Stones kick when it is just ungodly hot outside. Alright, next question is from Rob Gray. How do you settle upon which album will be next in the series? Are you researching multiple albums at once, or is it one album at a time? I was just talking about this not too long ago, actually. Keeping my Vinyl Monday schedule in order is all about keeping a somewhat even rotation of all of the artists I'm covering. I made the mistake of overrepresenting Zeppelin really early on my channel. I've admittedly underrepresented the Beatles and the Stones, but it's hard to keep that balance when there are so many classic artists that all have to have their due on the channel, and there's only 52 Mondays in a year. Sometimes I do research multiple episodes at once, sometimes I don't. It all depends on my real life schedule. Believe it or not, I'm not always in this box. I have other things to juggle. So if I'm doing something like traveling, I will try and produce multiple episodes, like 2 max. Sometimes I've done 3, that was truly awful, in 1 week before I go off and have my fun, and then I just get to edit and upload and be in the princess chair for however long I'm traveling. Next, which Vinyl Monday episode are you most proud of, / what has been your favorite review that you've done so far? The Vinyl Mondays I'm most proud of are, the go-to answer used to be Layla. That was a big undertaking for my experience level at the time. It was the first truly long-form content I'd ever done. It's 60 minutes long, a total deep dive on my favorite album, Layla and Other Assorted Love Songs. I was so proud of myself when it came out, and I hope that someday it will get the recognition it deserves. My work since then has far eclipsed it. I'm really proud of the Dark Side video. I feel that Blind Faith and Houses of the Holy got the attention that Dark Side should have. So I'm hoping that Pink Floyd is the little Vinyl Monday that could. As for a favorite review, oh man, Sticky Fingers was so much fun to make. I threw on my little Keith Richards outfit, I put on my big goggles and my pashmina scarf. I had background music for that one, provided by Margot Cotton. It was really solid commentary, I feel. That was fun. I'm proud of the Sticky Fingers video. Alright, next question. Thoughts on Film 101 asks, pick one from Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. Ooh, if you were asking me to pick from Crosby, Stills, and Nash, then I would pick Stephen Stills. However, since you say Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young, gonna have to go with Neil Young on this one. I got a whole slew of questions on my current favorite albums, artists, modern music that I like in general. I don't have any vinyl by them, but I really like the Lemon Twigs. I generally enjoy that 60s and 70s revival music. I posted the Melons on my Instagram page a while ago. They're a great modern sunshine pop group. But if we're going for something truly modern, then I have to shout out Black Midi. I've been on a huge Black Midi kick since my KEXP show kick over the winter. I was really bored and snowed in, so I caught up on a good chunk of the KEXP performances, and both of the sets that Black Midi did for them, incredible. Incendiary stuff. I was so impressed by their musicianship, their synergy as a group, the way they were able to add in lots of extra instrumentation like brass and keys and still have it work. So I went out and I bought a couple of their albums after seeing those. I got another similar question. What is your favorite modern indie rock band / artist and their best album? Man, I have loved Always since I was in college. I think it was right before my first semester of freshman year I discovered their self-titled record, and gosh, these guys have soundtracked all of the best and weirdest times of my life. I hold their music so close to me. My favorite album of theirs, oh my gosh, my album of the year last year, Blue Rev. I wasn't totally sold on this record until I saw Always live, and then just my whole perspective shifted. Also helps that I did snag a set list from that show. I had so much fun there. Oh my gosh, just a great album that I have even better memories attached to. Also, shout out to one of my favraves, Sheridan Riley's in that group. Gotta have a favorite drummer, right? Do you have any plans to do Vinyl Mondays of those more recent albums? I've already confirmed I'm doing this to several people in my comments, and the albums I've confirmed are scattered all over comment sections and community posts. So if you are crazy enough to find them all, you can actually work out my entire schedule for the month of May. Raphael simply asks, Death Grips? I regret to inform you, I do in fact stay noited. I got a couple questions along the lines of this. If you could travel back in time and see one performance/recording, what would it be? I'm gonna break this up into separates. If I could see one recording moment, oh my gosh, I would want to see Tom Dowd running out of the bathroom shouting, "Turn up the faders! Turn up the faders!" to catch the recording of Key to the Highway, Derek and the Dominoes. I would have loved to see that. As for a live performance, literally any show live at the Grandie from 67 to 69, drop me at the Grandie and I swear I'd have a chance with at least one of them. What is your earliest memory of hearing music and just totally digging it, / what was the first LP that opened you up to the album experience? Gosh, I thought my answer would be Siamese Dream by Smashing Pumpkins. I raided my dad's CD cabinet when I was like 11 and discovered all of his grunge music that he'd bought in the 90s. I did not grow up on classic rock. I grew up on 90s grunge. So discovering all of those records for the first time, Siamese Dream, Nevermind, 10, just totally changed the game for me. However, I think the first full album that I really responded to was, it'd have to be one of Taylor Swift's first 3 records. I remember when I was a kid, probably 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, I hated riding the bus. It was just way too noisy for me with like kids and engine noises and outside noises. It was very overwhelming. So I think my mom bought me an iPod Shuffle. It was one of those little ones with the wheel, and it was purple. And the way iPod Shuffles worked was you could either shuffle the entire music library, or you could play everything in alphabetical order. There was no in between. You couldn't add things to the queue, you couldn't shuffle within an album. No, it was very basic. So I would play the entire music library in order. So I got to experience Taylor Swift's whole discography. At the time, it was only 3 albums, back to back to back. I'm also a Speak Now stan, just for the record. Cam asks, what are some of your favorite, more obscure 60s and 70s songs? Well, it used to be Love Grows Where My Rosemary Goes, but then TikTok got a hold of it. So I think my short list now is Mr. Moonshine by Fat Mattress. That's Noel Redding's group, After the Experience. Penny Nichols' Wash Day, kind of a forgotten 60s folk gem. And Fleetwood Mac, Purple Dancer, and Dragonfly. I much prefer early Fleetwood Mac over Buckingham Nicks Fleetwood Mac. I think Danny Kerwin, Jeremy Spencer, Peter Green, all those guys are super underrated. Jack has a couple questions for me. First, what are your thoughts on the Left Bank? I really like the Left Bank. That Pretty Ballerina Walk Away Renee album is one of my favorite 60s pop releases. I really want to find that one on vinyl. Oh, and She May Call You Up Tonight was some of the music that Always had playing over the PA system before they went out on stage. So when that song came on, I was like, these guys are so cool. They know who the Left Bank is. They're my favorite modern band for a reason. And his second question, would you agree that John Lennon is the greatest singer that rock and roll has given us? That's a bold statement. I appreciate your bold statement. Next question. Alright, it's the how did you get into collecting vinyl questions. What age did you begin collecting vinyl? Alright, so I started seriously collecting vinyl when I was 19, but I was casually collecting about a year before then. My vinyl collecting really ramped up when I inherited about a third of my collection. I've told this story in a couple other videos before. I'll give you the short version here. I show up to this guy's house expecting to buy 150 records off of him, and I walked away with about 300 records for free. It was all artists that I wasn't really familiar with. I didn't know much about classic rock or rock and roll at all at the time, except for, you know, your basics like Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, Simon and Garfunkel. I picked up the collection on the stipulation that there would be Beatles and Simon and Garfunkel, and there were neither of those. So in order to familiarize myself with what the fuck had just happened to me with all of these albums just falling into my lap, I made myself listen to an album a day. That was so amazing for developing my personal music taste. I'd say my musical taste totally changed through that, and now I have this lovely little encyclopedia of knowledge behind me, and I appreciate all of how I've curated this over the years. Yeah, if I hadn't come into that collection, this probably wouldn't exist. And you know what? I've bought some Beatles and Simon and Garfunkel since then, so we're all good. Next question, One Lonely Pebble, asks, what are your favorite deep cuts from your collection? Oh gosh, let me, I don't know where this is, actually. Oh, it was right in front of me the whole time. Gosh, I don't know what I would call this. It's probably the closest to a noise record I have in my collection. This is Dragon Soul by Hong Kong Express. This goes crazy on my stereo system. I remember first getting this. I had one of those turntables that you could plug a headphone jack right into. I put this on. Oh my god. Thomas asks, what advice would you have for a new music enthusiast / vinyl collector in regards to exploring the great abyss that is rock and roll? The only advice that I could really give for a new collector or a newbie in the rock and roll verse like I was a short 4 years ago, collect what you like. Start with what you like and listen to the most and just build from there. If you base your collection off of, you know, essential album lists that other people have posted, nuh-uh, you're not gonna have a fun time. Collecting and listening is gonna feel like a chore unless you're like me and you make yourself listen to something new every day. Actually, that could be a really great method in developing your music taste. Just picking an album every day, listening through it, and figuring out what you like and what you don't. And honestly, when you're just starting out collecting, just buy the stuff that you listen to the most. Les also asked, I think he had a question in the mix earlier there, do you collect 8-tracks, cassettes, CDs also? I don't collect them so much as they just come into my possession. I won't say no to receiving them, but I rarely go out looking for them. But if I'm really head over heels for an artist, I want to buy a physical copy of their music and vinyl isn't an option, then yeah, I'll settle for a CD or a cassette. I think the best example I can think of is, this is Blood Brothers. This is the solo record of Rob Tyner from the MC5, my favorite member of my favorite band. I love him so much, and I had to have a copy of this. So I sought it out on Discogs, and now I'm the proud owner of a copy of Blood Brothers on CD. Would I love to see this on vinyl someday? Yes. Do I think that's happening anytime soon? No. So I'm perfectly happy with this. And this was also the case with Sideshows, the debut full-length LP of my favorite drummer, Sheridan Riley. They drum for Always. Their solo project, Peg. It's kind of one of the best albums that has been put out this year. It's so catchy. These songs will be stuck in your head for like a week, and then you'll move on to the next song and that'll be stuck in your head for a week too. Go check out that album. I bought a cassette copy of that. I'm really hoping it comes soon, and it'll just be a nice little something to own of theirs. Prog Rock Dude asks, outside of music / vinyl collecting / 60s and 70s fashion, what other hobbies and interests do you have that you don't talk about often? Sewing! I like making my own clothes. This is the paisley blouse that I wore when I was on the Losing My Opinion podcast. As difficult as this was to make, I'm crazy about it. I also made, this is my favorite dress ever. This dandy dress with this dark brown velvet and the lace ruffles on the collar and the sleeves. The only reason I don't wear it once a week is because I think you people would get sick of it. Actually, I wore this in the Strange Days video. Yeah, so you guys have seen this, and it's been posted to my Instagram a bunch too. I really want to make that one in more colors. And speaking of sewing projects that have made the Instagram, this little pair of brown fringe go-go shorts. I made these to match my favorite feather boa. I'm gonna be making a matching vest, and I can't wait to wear these out dancing someday. I also know way too much about maritime disasters. Ask me anything about the sinking of the Costa Concordia. I will probably be able to answer it. Malk asks, did you inherit your closet or do you source it from nostalgia outlets? I inherited very little, if any, of my vintage wardrobe. A lot of the people in my life did not save their clothes from the 60s and 70s, so I either go out and find the vintage myself, sometimes I make it myself if it's things that are super hard to find like these. I thrift a lot. I'd say probably 60 or 70% of my entire wardrobe is thrifted in some way, but I do turn to some nostalgia outlets for the special pieces. This is my favorite romper from Miracle Eye. This was an investment piece, but I'm just crazy about it. So stretchy and comfy, absolutely worth the price tag. I wore this in the Q&A post, actually. I got a few questions about my favorite music-related books, including A's, which I will have on the screen. Firstly, this, the Please Kill Me Uncensored Oral History of Punk. This is a fantastic resource to have. And I think I bought this specifically to make a video. I don't remember which video that was. This is a must-read. I have this one that a few of you have pointed out. This is the Shake It Up anthology. It's a collection of essays from people like Lester Bangs, Eve Babbitt's, Jessica Hopper's essay in here is great. This was actually a textbook for an intro-level college writing course. I learned how to write about music, and to write about music is to love music. One of my greatest regrets from college is not keeping in contact with the professor that assigned material from this book. Gosh, he changed my life. This was a watershed moment for sure. See behind me, Pamela Des Barres, I'm with the Band. This book changed my life. I had never read something with so much heart. I just read the stories about all the musicians that Pamela knew, and I felt all of this love. It felt so human. It's so not concerned with any of the mythology of rock and roll. It's a reality that very few people got to see. I discovered Pamela Des Barres right around the time I was first falling head over heels in love with the Five, and gosh, Pamela voiced the kind of love that I have for all the groups that I love. It's just throwing your whole heart and soul behind these people that make this thing that you love because they made the thing that you love. I gotta shout out Wonderful Tonight. Patty Boyd is the blueprint, but man, Wayne Kramer's book. I laughed, I cried, What a guy. I respect the shit out of him. A also asked, I'm a Zeppelin super fan, so who's your favorite member of Led Zeppelin and why? Jimmy Page was the guitarist that made me love guitarists. I just remember discovering Zeppelins 2 and 3 and then 4. Oh my gosh, I went through the biggest Jimmy Page phase. But right now, JPJ. I shout out JPJ in every Zeppelin video I make. He was Zeppelin's secret weapon. This is a perfect transition into the Mr. 123's question. You've discussed the good, the bad, and the ugly about some of your musical heroes. For example, you have no issue gushing over Jimmy Page in one breath and then rightfully calling him out for in the next. How do you separate the art from the artist? Is it something you learned via your art history degree, or does it come naturally? Oh man, it is something I learned from studying art history, where in art history, you're trained to analyze this art outside of the artist's life. I found that I enjoyed analyzing my art that way. I kind of have no choice to do that with what I do. Of course, there are times when I can't, but everybody draws that line in the sand differently. There really is no right or wrong answer. I'm thankful that this user brought up the art historian side of things, though, because that greatly affects the lens from which I am perceiving the classic rock world. Jack Clement asks, if you had to pick one single song to represent the entirety of music from the 60s, what would your pick be and why? My pick is Hendrix's Star Spangled Banner. It's psych, it's social commentary, it's a watershed moment, and who is more 60s but Jimi Hendrix? Mary asks, if you could listen to one album for the rest of your life, one that you could never get sick of and will always somehow surprise you, what album would that be? I mean, my go-to is Layla and Other Assorted Love Songs. It's my favorite record. It's just been such a wonderful soundtrack to this long, strange trip I've been on. Another album that I love maybe just as much, but haven't given anywhere near as much love to as I have for Layla, Harvest by Neil Young. This has almost all my favorite songs that Neil has ever written on it, besides Look Out for My Love, that came a little later. You know, I think Alabama is my favorite song Neil's ever written, and there's just such a heart that was infused in Harvest, and I can't wait to talk about this album properly. I can't say much more about it because I'm gonna spoil what I have in mind. K Initial asks, I'm late Gen Z, just turned 19 a couple of weeks ago, and I've noticed that classic, alternative, post-punk have had a huge surge in popularity recently among both my age cohort, I can never say that word right, no matter how much I type it in places, and in the LGBTQ plus community. So has rock music in general. Would you say that rock as a genre is experiencing a resurgence in popularity, or has this always been there and is just being talked about more openly? Gosh, I feel as every new generation comes of age, you know, the generations that all follow the heyday of classic rock, as we all come of age, we discover little nuggets from this era, like Love Grows Where My Rosemary Goes from TikTok. Cass Elliott's music is taking off on TikTok now too. Glenn Campbell's Southern Nights is having its moment. This happens every time. I love that it's happening, especially amongst this age group, because we are the funniest generation. Zoomers are so funny, especially the ones younger than me. There's just so many more opportunities now for enjoying this media, consuming this media however we choose to, and more analysis happening now. I don't like this wave in anti-intellectualism that's happening, but it's not happening within new classic rock enjoyers. That makes me feel secure. I hope that was a good enough answer for you. This person also asked Lana Del Rey, yay or nay. If loving Lana Del Rey is wrong, then I don't want to be right. And if you could have any artist collab regardless of genre or time period, who would you pick and why? We deserved a Janis Joplin, Stevie Nicks, Amy Winehouse collab. Yardin' Around asks, are there any albums you want but can't find a copy of? Buttertone's self-titled. Lucille Fur's self-titled. The Naked and Famous, Passive Me, Aggressive You, one of the better pop records of the 2010s. TV Girl, French Exit, love that one. Neil Young and Crazy Horse, Zuma, I used to have a copy and then I lost it. And oddly enough, Something Anything by Todd Rundgren. I realize this is a super common album, I just have terrible luck finding it. Rebel Scum 312, God, I hope that's a Star Wars reference, asks, if you could time travel to 1969 and were allowed to bring back one object, what would it be? Is a husband an acceptable answer? They just don't make them like they used to. What is your favorite album that you either do not feel you can do justice / cannot review for some reason? Is there any record from your collection that you do not want to make a video on? Any jazz albums. I love A Love Supreme. I love Crescent. I love Live at Massey Hall by the Charlie Parker Quartet. I just don't have the technical musical knowledge to be able to do a jazz record justice. I'm not a musician myself. I got a couple questions revolving around that. And jazz is really the only genre in which that is a problem with what I do. I know I've gotten a flurry of requests to cover Closer after this week's Unknown Pleasures video. No, I will never cover Closer. It's just too close to the knife for me. I got a couple questions on my favorite blues artists. I love Howlin' Wolf a lot. I like Elmore James, but I've learned to love, over the past few months, John Lee Hooker. Robin Tyner steering me right once again. This goes with Monoral 298's question. Do you ever listen to jazz, blues, country, or soul? Listen, if you don't like country music, you're just listening to the wrong stuff. I also got a couple questions about hip-hop listening. Has there ever been a rap album or artist you've really enjoyed, or are you strictly rock / pop? The one oddball artist that I really like that's kind of outside of the realm of anything else I collect, Tyler the Creator. I love his music. I love that guy. I just bought Call Me If You Get Lost, the estate sale on vinyl, that nice kind of seafoam blue pressing that Golf Wang had, and I'm so excited for it to come in. Sleepy Boy asks, what's your most prized possession record of them all? First of all, Sleepy Boy, I hope you get that nap in soon. It would either have to be that first copy of Layla. This isn't my first copy, this is my fourth. My first is all the way over there and I ain't getting up to get that. Here you are, my copy of MC5 High Time. I went on such a wild goose chase to find a copy of one of these, and I think this is my favorite MC5 record. I'm not sure. I feel like it changes every time I listen to their albums. Oh gosh, I cherish this. Jason asks, which Beatle is your favorite? I'm personal to Paul, but I can't tell if you'd be the same way. I am a George girly. Also asked, favorite Miracle musical / Tally Hall songs. Ooh, even though the first 3 minutes of it are all just backwards, I love the Mind Electric. That thing is insane. It's like a melodic revolution number 9. Fernando asks, what are your thoughts on Aerosmith? Obtuse Rubber Goose asks, overrated band. I very much appreciate the Fairly Odd Parents reference, though. Cybershocker455 asks, have you watched or read Daisy Jones and the Six? If so, what are your thoughts on it? Ooh, I enjoyed the Daisy Jones book. I thought it was a great book with some creative storytelling devices, you know, that documentary transcript format, I really responded with. As for the series, a lot of the best plot points from the book were cut out. Karen and Graham's relationship was entirely underbaked, and the styling, aside from Camilla, was so bad. Alright, on to another question. My best friend from high school asks, what vinyl do you think is your dog's favorite? I don't know, gonna have to ask him, but if it's not Pet Sounds, might have to give him a side eye. Witty username 57 asks, if you could make an imaginary band only made up of 4 members who have never interacted with Eric Clapton, who would be in it? Dude, I don't think this is possible. My go-to answer used to be the MC5, but then I heard that story of Clapton getting punched by Rob Tyner at that Detroit gig, and my go-to answer just went out the window. God, I love that man. Flanagan79 asks, favorite dessert item, tiramisu. Favorite painter, I really like Mark Rothko. I realize why some might not be into the whole modern art thing, but I have been to museums where I didn't know Mark Rothko was on display, and I would walk into the room and I would see one of his canvases, and I just became so overwhelmed by emotions that I cried. Something about his style is so captivating. And what is your usual breakfast routine? I wake up, scroll through TikTok on my phone for a little bit, let my dog out, have my coffee, squeeze in some Vinyl Monday listening while I'm doing that. James asks, most of us have a vinyl buying / selling regret. What's yours? Passing up the orange vinyl mono press of Axis Bold as Love when I saw it at this random Newberry Comics off the highway. I should have just bought it. Curtis asks the hardest question. For some reason, the only trace of music left on Earth is your vinyl collection. You want to make the music available for everyone. You have a machine that can make a perfect copy of vinyl records, except there's a switch on it that only allows you to choose to copy either the vocals or the instrumentation. The machine destroys the original in the process. What an awful design! Who would make this? Which settings would you use for some of your favorite records? This is going to be a flaming hot take, but for Layla, the setting I would use is the vocals setting. I know, blasphemy to cut out all of Clapton and Duane Allman's playing, but the interplay between Clapton and Bobby Whitlock's vocals is just, that's the most moving part of the album for me. As for something I'd keep only the instrumentation on, that's a little harder. I'm trying to think of the albums that I've really appreciated the production on. You know, Sgt. Pepper's or Revolver by the Beatles. You would be losing some not having those vocals and lyrics in there, but their instrumentation at that period in time, Rubber Soul too, was so creative. Oh, and Pet Sounds. Actually no, Pet Sounds, you could do either and it would work just as well. I might have to switch the machine back and forth for Pet Sounds, if that's allowed. Bo J. Walker asks, what is your fave, solar panels or wind turbines? What? I guess I like the novelty of a good wind turbine? I've literally never put any thought into this, so thank you for maybe the most original question. Curtis and Bo win for the 2 most original questions. Are there any songs by your favorite bands that you don't like and why? Hats off to Roy Harper has entered the chat. No, but for real, Miss X, I don't know why I've never responded to that song. Like, I don't hate an MC5 ballad. Let Me Try off Back in the USA was fine. I don't know, I just never responded to that one. It's never grabbed me. I skip it. It's like my one MC5 skip. Yes, that includes the terrible 1967 Black to Calm. Alan Clayton asks, hiya from England, Abigail. Hi from the United States. Many of us will be hoping that enjoying this channel is the start of a long association. Nice nod to the caption of those Q&A photos on Instagram. I see what you did there. What ambitions, wishes do you have for Vinyl Monday? Above all, I just want to cultivate a community that is engaged with the series no matter what album I decide to cover, and is willing to give every album a chance. I want to make this kind of like a book club, you know? I post the album that I'm covering this week, you consume the video, and then you go off on your own and you consume the album. If it's been in your life for 5 minutes or 50 years, you'll share how you feel about it. And I also want you to interact with each other's experiences with these albums. I guess I just want to create a strong community. That's really the most I want from this. But if an interview with Nardwuar is in the question, I wouldn't deny myself of that. That's like one of my wacky goals in life, is to be interviewed by Nardwuar. Because, like, come on, imagine both of our energies in the same room, right? That'd be like dividing by 0 or ripping the tag off a mattress. I don't know, anywhere between what it is now and equal and opposite Anthony Fantano. I only say that half jokingly. Anywhere between that huge spectrum would make me happy. Above all, I just want you guys to be engaged with this as much as I'm invested in this. And finally, the last question for today is from Sabina. Beautiful name. I love that name. Hi, first of all, I want to thank you for all I have learned with your videos. Yes, I'm so glad. I love when people learn from this as much as I've learned from this. I might have learned more from Vinyl Monday than you guys all have. Anyway, on to the actual question. Any tip for dealing with drug-addicted, long-haired musician obsessions? Well, Sabina, all the advice I have for you is good fucking luck. If you figure it out, let me know. And that is it. That's the 10K Q&A. Thank you all so much again for 10,000 subscribers, over 10,000 now. This has been such a wonderful journey to be on, and it's all thanks to you guys and the stories you've told me in the comments, your weird and wacky and wonderful takes on the albums I love. Just you make this all worth the energy. So, and I guess all I have left to sign off with is, if you like what I do here, you should like this video and subscribe to my channel. I post my regular episodes of Vinyl Monday every Monday morning at 11 a.m. Thank you so much for watching this whole thing, and I'll see you guys on Monday. Bye!